So this interview will be recorded to ease data process, ensure the highest accuracy in the process. I just want to make sure I have your consent to record and your consent to interview you.
You do.
Okay. Thank you for agreeing to participate. We can begin the interview. How long have you been involved in the collectible car space or industry?
Since 2004.
Okay.
I was a young boy. I was in grade 8 then, 2003, and since then I started working at my dad's friend's panel shop, who had his own little collection of classic cars, and I used to work on them, fiddle on them, and that's where the bug bit, and that's where it started.
So that has your involvement in the industry been in a personal or professional capacity?
Both.
Okay.
Both. We collect ourselves and enjoy the cars ourselves, but also our business is buying and selling and restoring collectible cars.
Okay. And has your focus been primarily on collectible cars that are considered as classic, or does it extend to modern collectible cars?
In recent years, it's extended to modern collectible cars as the GT3 Porsche and things like that, E46 M3s, all that. So we sort of try and have a look at what the market wants, what people want, what's collectible all over the world. In recent years, we've seen all the South African cars becoming very collectible, so we tried focusing on them, and we tried to anticipate what kind of cars will in future be collectible, numbered vehicles, etc., etc. Last of a production, last of air-cooled, last of this, last of that. So yeah, it's modern, classic, anything.
Okay. Do you believe that there are vehicles built after 2000 that are collectible?
Correct, yes.
Yes, okay.
They are, absolutely.
And then now we'll go on to the investment part of it. Do you believe that the collectible vehicle space in South Africa is growing, and how does it compare to the international market?
We have been, for many years, I have been of the opinion that South Africa has one of the strongest classic and collectible markets in the world, in my opinion. Cars get very good prices in South Africa. South African cars get exported worldwide at massive figures. As in any country, the market's up and down. It is a volatile market because obviously it's a luxury-based market. But our customers have always been of the higher end customers, if you can say it like that, buying cars for pure investment purposes, not just because it looks nice or for whatever the case might be. They buy them to want to see an appreciation in value going forward, and that's what we try and focus on.
Okay. So are collectible vehicles a viable investment for investors?
Yes, no, absolutely, especially looking at South Africa and the economy and what all traditional investments are doing. You're lucky if you get a 5 to 7% return on a traditional 5-year term investment or whatever the case might be. And looking at what you can do on the cars, obviously you need to buy the right car. You can't just think any old classic car lying in someone's backyard is worth a hell of a lot of money. So you got to buy right, and you got to make sure you get a good quality car, and all the numbers and stuff on the vehicles are right. There's a lot of fraud, if you want to use that word, going around with guys building vehicles, especially on the Piranha side, where numbered vehicles get jippoed and replicas built and things like that. So no, it's definitely a viable market, and guys are realizing that more and more and more. You'll see that the market's growing, the classic and collectible car market's growing because of that reason. Guys are skeptical investing money in traditional investments, so they put them in classic cars because it's very easy. If the pawpaw hits the fan, then you take your car, you put it into a container or onto a plane, you take it wherever you is. If the pawpaw hits the fan in the economy, your investments are stuck, you won't be able to get your money out, and problem after problem after problem. So no, guys are investing in money, and they are seeing actual very good returns. Very good.
So that probably answers the questions: what advantages or disadvantages investing in collectible vehicles have when compared to safer investments as shares, properties, and precious metals?
Yeah, I would not at all refer to shares, properties, and things like that as safe investments anymore. I personally only invest in cars, property not at all. We stopped a couple of years back for that reason. This is our only property that we currently own. But the cars keep on becoming more, and it's a safe investment. You can insure your car, you can drive your car, you can sell it. Take it anywhere you want. If the vehicle is registered in your personal name, you can buy it for R1, sell it for 100 million. You don't pay 1 cent capital gains tax. That
on
is
any profits gained
on any profits gained on a classic car. No capital. If it's registered in your private name, if it's registered in a company or a PTY or CC, something like that, then obviously the company taxes are applicable. If I buy this car now for R1, this Mercedes for R1, registered in my personal name, sell it tomorrow for $1 million, I don't pay a single cent capital gains tax.
Okay, and I mean that differs greatly compared to other investments.
Absolutely. So property and things like that, if you buy a property for 100,000 rand and you sell for 5 bar, yes, you get your rebates of 3 million, 3.5, whatever the case might be, but you're going to pay capital gains tax at the end of the day. And yeah, there's a lot of benefits. As I say, it's a usable, enjoyable investment which you can insure. If I buy a $5 million car, I insure it for 5 million, I drive it down the road, I get into an accident, the insurance pays me out 5 bar, I got my returns, and everybody's happy.
So would you say investing in collectible vehicles is relatively low risk then?
I would. As I said, it's very important to buy right and to not just think you're going to go and buy any car and it's going to appreciate tremendously in value. There's different variants of vehicles, the Porsches, the Mercedes, all that, the different. An exact same C107 Mercedes, a 280 SL and a 450 SL price differs with 400,000 Rand. So things like that just needs to be taken into account, but it is a safe investment. Okay. It is a safe investment.
And how do the prices of collectible vehicles in South Africa, so the price of a car for sale or value and stuff, compare to the international market?
I'd say pretty expensive. South Africa is pretty expensive. Our cars are pretty expensive. If you compare to what you can buy a Mustang for in the US and what you buy a Mustang for here, it's about double the price. But what guys do not necessarily take into consideration is the fact that to buy a Mustang in the US for $20,000, people say, yeah, well, that's 400,000 Rand. Why is it $1 million here? If you buy that car in the US, you import it here, you pay shipping, you pay import taxes and duties, which kills us in South Africa. The import duties and taxes is a problem. You bring that car, and at the end of the day, it costs you $1 million as well. So that's where guys need to be careful. They say our South African cars are expensive, but buy one anywhere else in the world, bring it here. If you get it here, that's the money. And similar story, cars going out, cars going to Australia, New Zealand, all those places. Used to be very easy. They buy them here because it's cheap currency-wise. Take it that side, sell it for triple the price. But even in those countries now, Aussies, New Zealand, they've all been imposed with a luxury tax. Same as our ad valorem duties and taxes that we pay this side has now happened that side. So we've seen a bit of a drop in export and imports of cars, but it will still happen. Special vehicles, they always sell and they'll always move anywhere in the world. Absolutely.
And then how significant are the maintenance costs and insurance costs when owning a collectible vehicle?
Obviously that also depends on the condition of the vehicle when you buy it, what condition you get it in, but I always advise people, don't buy a car and a project and build it and think you're going to make your money on because it's going to be cheaper. If you restore a car, most of the time you spend about 150% of the vehicle's value. So if
you bought it, 150% of when
yeah, so if I want to restore, say, a Mercedes Pagoda, or I want to buy a Pagoda, the Pagoda costs $2 million, but there's one available for 500 grand but needs a complete restoration. A lot of guys will opt for the 500 project and then restore it, not necessarily to the standard and spec that it should be, and then it works out cheaper. But if you buy that same Pagoda and you want to restore it 100% the way that it should be, if the car's worth $2 million, you're gonna spend 150% of that. So you're gonna spend 3 bar restoring that car to be worth $2 million. So restoring cars not necessarily a profitable game. If you do it, you better keep the car and keep it for a long time for the market to catch up with what you spent on the vehicle. Servicing costs are low, obviously depending on cars, but the big V8s, you service them once a year. Obviously depends on how much you use the cars and drive as well, but a service once a year, 5 grand for a V8. Bigger cars, the Porsches, the GT3s, that stuff, 20 grand a year servicing or whatever the case might be. But no, as in any traditional investment, you'll find your portfolio fees, your maintenance costs and all those charges. We just look at those costs as our investment costs on the vehicles. Exactly. Exactly.
And now a lot of people say collectible things as investments is also an emotional return, along with the financial. So what sort of emotional return do you feel when owning and using your collectible vehicle, and do you consider it less or more important than the financial return?
That's also a difficult one. What we've seen is a lot of guys that's capable of buying classic cars, when they get to a certain age, they want to sort of recreate the younger days. So they want to buy the car that granny had, the car that grandpa had, the cars that their dad had, the cars they grew up in. They want to replace all those cars. So we've seen guys building collections based on stuff that was in the family, putting a collection together with cars that they used to own. And I think that brings quite a bit of happiness to the guys, a bit of a sentiment around it. But at the end of the day, most oaks, you want to enjoy it and you want to be able to. That's what makes it better than a traditional investment as well. If you walk into a garage, your investment garage, and you got your Alphas, Porsches, Mercs, American cars, whatever lined up there. That immediately creates a sense of happiness, other than logging into a bank account or whatever, an investment account, seeing the numbers there, and then closing it again and moving on. It's much better, and I think it makes you happy when you get pretty good returns. We've really seen good returns on these old cars. Some vehicles doubled in value in the last 2 years. So the guys that bought them 2020, whatever the case might be, paid 700,000 for fastback Mustangs. I'm selling them at 1.5 million, not negotiable these days. So, put your money in cars.
Put your money in cars. Okay. Now I just want to go on to the criteria.
Sure.
We're gonna rate them on a scale of 1 to 7, 1 being least important and 7 being most important.
Sure.
So let's just start with production numbers.
Production numbers are important. What's 7?
7, yeah. 7 is most important.
7 production numbers. On certain vehicles, yes, it's very important. The Capri Piranhas, there's numbered vehicles. The XR8, the Interceptors, it's numbered cars. Obviously, that creates more value because it's limited numbers. So not everybody can have them. Look what Porsche is doing with the GT3, the new ones these days. If I call Porsche now, I want to buy a GT3 RS, they'll laugh at me because there's a list for those cars. They go to specific owners. You can't buy them. And if I want to buy a second-hand one, it's priced more than the new one, the list price, and that is because of production numbers and things like that. So no, production numbers are important.
Okay, and this is more related to the old cars, but survival numbers.
Also very important. Also 7. Also a 7. No, that is, and that's what sort of creates a perceived value as well. If you look at the Alpha GTVs, not that it's survivor numbers, but out of the 212 ever built, they speculate there's about between 10 and 12 left in South Africa. Same with the Capri Piranhas, 500 built, I think 500, 250 or 500 built, of which they speculate about 40 left in South Africa. So that's why those kind of cars, the survivor ones that's left in the country still, I try and keep them here because that creates a bigger value for them in South Africa because it's a limited one left. There's less of them available here. Strangely enough, out of the 212 Alpha GT3 GTV 6 3 liters, there was 212 built. There are 350 GTV6 Alpha 3 liters registered in Australia.
There's only 212 built.
Correct. So that's what it ties in with what I said earlier, the fraud that comes in. Replicas, guys taking 2 liters, 2.5s, building them into 3 liters, punching numbers and shipping them off.
So on that note, actually, just on a side topic, how would you check if a car is actually what it is or if it's a fraud?
It's pretty difficult because the guys have been doing good jobs even before this collectible market boomed 10 years, 20 years ago. Guys already started with the Alpha 3 liters because then they had a value then. It was also the homologation cars, but obviously there's guidelines of cars. Capri Piranhas, we know them very well. So before we buy a car or buy a car on behalf of a customer or whatever the case might be, we send someone, we look at the car, we try and get it, we put it on the lifts, we check for the little details on a 3 liter on a V8 Capri. The exhaust cutouts at the back on the valance differs from the sides where it should be to a normal 3 liter. There's numbers you need to check for certain tags under the seats that needs to correlate on the Alphas, like the 3 liter Alphas. The flex plate and the damper has a number on. Those should match. A lot of guys doesn't know that. So there's the cars differ, but there are ways of checking the authenticity.
If someone is looking to invest in a collectible car, always get it checked out.
Absolutely make sure
Absolutely
make sure. Because guys get taken for rides, and remember, it's a very difficult industry. So you go and a guy advertises his V8 Capri Piranha. You go there, you buy the car. 2 weeks later, you realize, but this is not an actual Piranha.
Yeah.
To go back and try and give that car back and get your money from that guy is nearly impossible. It's nearly impossible. So rather make sure it costs you money. Pay $5,000. If a vehicle costs $1 million or whatever, spend 5 or 10 grand, send somebody out, get on a plane, send that person, look at the car, and then you maybe save $1 million, or you just pay for the car and you lose your money. That is, so just, you guys got to be careful. Call us, appoint us. We got guys all over Cape Town, Durban, KZN, all over the world actually. We inspect vehicles on a buyer's behalf. We do the shipping. We make sure that the cars are correct. Otherwise, they sit with a problem. At the end of the day, the problem becomes ours because we need to sort it out.
I suppose it's the same as doing due diligence with when you're buying
properties,
property or buying shares, anything like that. It's the same.
Exactly.
Same. Okay, the next one would be mileage.
On
classic and...
Yeah, so on classic cars, the American cars, let's say pre-1980 cars, mileage doesn't really play that big of a deal. You'll even realize that on most of these cars, the mileage every 99,000 Ks, it ticks over, then it starts from zero again.
Okay.
So most of the cars in here, you do 99,999 Ks, and then it ticks over, it starts at zero. So that's why the mileage on the classic cars doesn't really matter all that much.
So pre-1980, like 3 maybe?
Yeah, around there, it doesn't really matter because of the fact that the mileage starts at zero. Where it does matter and where it creates value is if you got an older classic car with a verified mileage, where you got full history from new, full books, stamped service history from new. Then on classics, that does make a difference. On modern classics, your E46 M3s, your 993, 997 Porsches, those stuff, mileage does play a role. There
so
you want it as low as possible.
Pre-1983 and then post-1980?
Let's say pre-1985. Let's say pre-85. Mileage not that big of a deal because
so about 3.
Yeah, because they tick over.
And then post-1985, pretty important.
Pretty important.
So about a 5.
Oh yeah, I need to do the 7. So on the older ones, yes, let's say a 3. Not that important, and on the newer ones, I'd say a 6, eh?
Okay.
Yeah, pretty important.
And then the historical significance, so that's like maybe homologation cars, cars that had something new or something, something
always.
special.
That is a 7.
7.
That is a 7. The Alpha 3-liter GTV6s, those are homologation special cars. They had to build a limited number of them to be able to use them on the road, to be able to homologate them for racing. Capri Piranhas are numbered cars. GT3s are numbered cars. Chef Can-Am's numbered cars. So no, homologate, that ties in with the numbered cars. So homologation, no, definitely. If you look at Porsche 930 Turbo, first year, like my 75 there, first year 274 built, of which 15 were right-hand drive. Homologation year. 1976, 5,000 built. Not that important, not that special anymore. So if you compare a 75 Porsche Turbo to a 1980 Porsche Turbo, exactly the same car, but the homologation car is worth 3 times more.
So that ties into historical significance and production hours.
Correct. 7.
And then drivetrain configuration, so V6, V8, V12, whatever. Drivetrain configuration is rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive or
not 2. Not that important. It is important though that for value that the vehicle has is a matching numbers. So it has the original engine that it came out the factory with. So a lot of guys would take a Porsche like this, which has a very shitty small engine, and then they would put a Beetle 1600 engine in there to give it a bit more oomph. That takes away from the value because it's not the original matching numbers engine.
Okay.
So
and then engine also not that important. Where if it's a V10 or V6.
No, as long as it's original to the vehicle. So as long as it's original to the vehicle, that I would also like a 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then paint interior condition, is it like original as it left factory?
100%, yes. So it depends. There's a value for an original car, which is unrestored, original interior, original paint, everything, and then there's a value for a completely restored car, and 2 different collectors. Some collectors want a perfect 10 out of 10 restored car. Somebody wants the Survivor original, nice classic car. Yeah. So that goes both ways a little bit.
So what would you give it for paint condition in the original, not in a restoration?
In the original, that is a 5. That is a 5.
And then maintenance history, so service books, all that kind of stuff, history of the car.
Super important. Not a 7, but a 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then number of previous owners.
What do you mean? Every single car we sell used to belong to an old tunny. Absolutely. No.
Garage kept.
I think condition is more important than ownership. 4. I'll give it a 4. Yeah.
And then any famous previous owners.
That plays a role. Obviously, the world is crazy. People are mad and they want to own something that a celebrity has or had. We got Harry Oppenheimer Jensen Interceptor at the back, and that is there. And I'd say the car's worth probably 1.4, but because it was Harry Oppenheimer's car, the Diamond Man from new, he's London, he's his daily driver in London from 1968. We bought it 2-3 years back. Paid 2 bar for it. So just having his name tied to it gave it a 500, 600, 700 grand.
And that would tie into showing that in the history that it was his car.
Correct. So the provenance, the history, the books, the photos, whatever there is to prove that this was his car. That all plays a role. That's his. What was the question?
So famous previous owners, how important?
Also depends on the car, but let's say 6.
Okay.
Let's say 6.
And then location vehicle spend most of its life. So is that being at the coast or is it inland or things like that?
Again, depends on how it was kept. I'd say that's important. That's like a 6 as well. Okay. But if a car is kept near the coast, but it's kept in a garage with dehumidifiers or whatever, it's exactly the same as a car being inland. So it depends.
Yeah, okay.
It depends, yeah.
Originality, so that's as close to factory as it came, the whole car.
The closer to factory, the more the value.
Okay, so how important?
6.
Okay. And then modifications with period correct parts. Do you think that influences the value badly, or?
I think it does.
It does. Okay.
I think it does. But again, it's a difficult one. I've learned in this industry that you get your customers who are purists and collectors, and they want to buy something that's as it left the factory, not with any period parts added or anything like that. And then you get a guy who likes the look of a classic Beetle or whatever it is, and he wants to add MP spotlights, MP runners and things like that. Car still got the same value, just for different owners. The one owner wants it original, the one wants it with all.
So it's not so important.
No, for.
And then commonality is all similar cars. So if you look at an E46 and you're saying, will this go up in value? Would you look at an E36 to see if it has already and judge based on that?
Yes. So you sort of try and look at
trends,
at the trends and at the historical E46 and E36 and E30. It's difficult to sort of project a value on these cars, but the E30s has gone in 2 years from 500 grand to 1.5 million, 325 ISs. Yeah. Then the E46 CSLs followed, which was 1.2 and in a year jumped to 2.4 ballpark. They sort of skipped the normal naturally aspirated whatever M3s, but we've seen them picking up. That car I've had for 5 years, it's been up at 600 grand, 650 now for the past couple of months. There's interest, and everybody, I can hear the guys calling, then they want to ask that exact question you're asking now. So the CSL picked up that much in value. Do you think this one is also going to do that? I think so, but I can't say it with 100% certainty.
So maybe what an average importance?
Yeah, average 5.
Okay. All right. Well, that's all of them. Is there anything you would add to this?
No, just as I said, guys got to be very careful when buying cars.
So fraud and.
Yeah, you got to make sure that the car you're buying is what it's being sold as. We just saw it in the week of 500 SL 107 Mercedes being sold as a 500. The VIN number on the car is a 450 SL. So things like that, guys got to be careful. Paperwork, as she says, the paperwork on vehicles are very important. A lot of guys buying cars, they don't realize that if the vehicle is not registered in South Africa on the NATA system, you can't use it on the road. Some cars make sense, the M1 BMWs that stays in a museum for value or whatever it might be, but you always need to look at paperwork, make sure your vehicle is registered on the road, licensed and roadworthy. Be careful of scammers. There's a lot of them out there. Never pay for something if you haven't seen it or sent someone or you've sent someone to go and have a look at it. Your money will get stolen. Don't expect to buy a car today and sell it in 4 months' time at an appreciated value. Keep a car for 12 months. Keep a car for 12 months at least. If you keep it 5 years, even better. Then you can basically almost buy any car and you'll see an appreciation in value. Look at the condition of a car. Make sure that the car doesn't need major restoration if you buy it as an investment car. Never buy a project car and think you're going to restore it and then sell it at a profit as an investment. If you're going to buy a project car, you're going to restore it. You're going to spend 50% more than what the vehicle is worth, and you're going to have to hold on to it for another 5 years before you'll reach that value that you've spent on the car. And I think that is it.
Is there anything else you want to add in criteria as well?
Anything else? Ask that man, he's very clever.
How do you do that with importing cars as well? We can't import certain vehicles.
If you want to mention it there, you can. South Africa's laws, and it's been like that for many years, which is stupid. That should change, and I think it will. If you look at importing a car into South Africa, and it's a left-hand drive, and a Mustang or whatever, if you want to be able to register the car in South Africa, it has to be pre-1965. Okay. So I can register a left-hand drive 1960 Impala, a 1962 Camaro, whatever, that I can register. As soon as it goes, it's newer than 1965, you can never register that car in South Africa except if you do a left to right-hand drive conversion, which is costly and takes away from the originality and the value of the car. So that's also a thing. And then exporting. Just try and keep people to not export all these beautiful South African cars. If we can get them all sold locally, we'll be able to create a very strong classic car market in South Africa, which we are trying to do, which we are busy with.
Tell him about the insurance as well. The Holland. How we
Classic car insurance, as I said earlier, that's what makes it a great investment. You can insure your investment. Yes, I know a lot of these traditional investment companies, they give you a guarantee. We guarantee you this return. But it's bullshit. At the end of the day, I used to be in insurance for 10 years, and that's why I moved to this kind of investment business, because it just makes more sense. Our insurance is tailored for classic and collectible cars. We wrote the products ourselves along with Hollard and I2, and it's underwritten by Hollard. So it's products specifically tailored for investment cars. So the premiums are pretty low because the guys know that you're going to take much better care of your investment 356 Porsche than you will of your daily runner Polo outside, or whatever the case might be. So Oaks just that makes a difference. The insurance on it makes a difference, and we do the insurance ourselves. I'm trying to market a bit, you know. So yeah.
All right, thank you so much. I'll stop.
Last thing.
Yeah.
Workshops. If guys buy cars and they want them worked on or maintained or whoever, make sure that you know you're dealing with, because a lot of guys, they say that they'll work on your classic car, but they'll botch it up. They'll use the wrong parts and service it incorrectly, and whatever the case might be. So do your research, do your due diligence before you just invest in classic cars. Call somebody that knows, come see us, do whatever you got to do, but just don't go into it head over heels and think you're going to make a lot of money. There's still, as any investment, as soon as you part with your money, make sure you've done your homework. That's all.
Okay.
That is all.
Thank you.